Mrs. Bakhtari, the last time you were here in the studio, you introduced yourself as the ambassador of Afghanistan. But since then, you have received a letter from the Foreign Ministry in Kabul officially dismissing you. So what is your official position now?
I remember last we spoke in 2021, I said that I was the ambassador. I still hold the position as the ambassador, although I cannot carry out all the duties that I'm supposed to do, while I'm not able to carry out that role perfectly, but I'm still active, in particular at the Vienna International Center. I'm the ambassador, my credential is valid, and I'm as active as other ambassadors.
But how can you be ambassador if your country's government does not recognize you?
That is a unique situation, I understand that, but my credential is valid here in Austria, and they do not have the legitimacy to send another ambassador to Austria or to elsewhere, so that's why I'm still here. I do not recognize them as well as a legitimate government of Afghanistan, and I'm representing the people of Afghanistan.
But since the Taliban takeover, you have received no funding from Kabul, and you had to leave the old embassy premises at the Ringstraße because the rent was too high. How do you finance the work of the embassy now and your own salary?
We reduced our expenses. Right now, we do not have like that typical embassy. It's a very small office without driver or secretary or any protocol or any security. But we managed to serve for our purpose. We have a small consular section that we provide services for the Afghan diaspora, and through that budget, we cover our expenses. And when it comes to the salaries, most of the time we do not have salaries, but there are months that we have the salaries. It depends.
But how can you provide consular services when your embassy is not recognized by the government?
So who should do that? Because the Taliban's services as well are not accepted here in Vienna. So then someone should serve the Afghan diaspora. And besides that, we are doing the services that we have done before without consulting with our government. Right now, we do not have passports. We do not issue passports, but we can extend passports. Or we are not able to do many services. But some things like identifications and things like that, yeah, we are still able to do that.
But when you extend a passport, is that accepted when someone travels to Afghanistan?
It's accepted in all over the world. And as far as I know, no one has been rejected from Afghanistan as well. We don't have any complaint received.
Let's talk about your country and about the government that you don't recognize. When the Taliban regained power 4 years ago, they tried to present themselves to the world as changed. How are today's Taliban different from the Taliban 25 years ago?
I don't see any major changes. Of course, there are some changes, but I don't see changes when it comes to their policies, especially when it comes to the women's rights. Afghanistan has suffered, sadly, a deep setbacks when it comes to the democracy and freedom. And we have seen many changes since 2021. If I summarize that, Afghanistan is the only country ruled without a constitution or a functioning legal framework. Afghanistan is the only country which denies education to its half of population. The economy has nearly collapsed. The banking system is dismantled. Humanitarian crises have been exacerbated. Also, the international aid is shrinking. And Afghanistan is still a hub for narcotic and illicit drugs. Despite the claims that trafficking is, cultivation is banned, but still the trafficking continues, and of course it fuels corruption and their war economy. But among others, the major issue is the severe restrictions on women and girls, which amounts to gender persecution and gender apartheid.
Let's talk about that. When the Taliban came back to power in 2021, they announced to the world that women would play an important role in the new Afghanistan. Yet you speak, as you just said, of gender apartheid in Afghanistan, which is a very strong term. What do you exactly mean by that?
At the beginning, we were hoping that the Taliban were changed, but unfortunately that was not the case. And day to day, they put more pressures on women with more than 100 decrees restricting, in particular, women. And what I mean by gender persecution and gender apartheid, gender apartheid enforces segregation, discrimination, subjugation on women to erase them from civil, public, and political life. And the term actually is coming from the Apartheid Convention that condemned at the time the racial apartheid in South Africa. And if you just replace the race with gender, you see that it's the same condition. And the Taliban has systematically designed this system to erase women from the society. And actually that is a crime against humanity. That's why we call that gender apartheid.
There are many asylum seekers from Afghanistan in Austria, and some of them commit crimes. The Interior Minister in Austria wants to expel convicted criminals back to Afghanistan, as Germany is already doing. Should Austria deport Afghan criminals?
Austria has been home for several generations of my people, and we are very grateful to that. Among them, there are many people that live in uncertainty because their asylum cases are not accepted yet. And of course, like any other society, there are some criminals among our society as well. And I'm just to be clear that I do not back criminals, especially when they have committed severe crimes and brutally broke the law. But there be some measurements about that, some conditions about that. And if they want to send those criminals back to Afghanistan, so what is the condition and measurement for that? Because, the Taliban want to take something in state, and I don't want Austria to lend legitimacy through deporting those people to Afghanistan. I mean, Austria has every right to decide about, because of its national interest. I'm not against that, but I mean, Austria can explore alternative ways how to send those criminals back to Afghanistan, like requesting the third countries' assistance. That might be a good solution. Austria is very dear to my heart, and I'm really grateful because Austria has stood tall in the face of injustice and heard my voice. And I'm really, really grateful.
The German government, which does deport people to Afghanistan, has now for the first time allowed 2 Taliban officials into Germany, to the Afghan embassies there, to assist with the deportations. Do you think that could happen in Austria as well? And if it would happen, if it happened, would you work with Taliban officials?
I hope not, but if Austria decides to have the Taliban representative, definitely I'm not working with them. Then at that moment, I will leave the office. And then, of course, that would be Austria's decision.
So far, Russia is the only country to have officially recognized the Taliban regime and to have established full diplomatic relationships with Kabul. Do you believe more countries will follow this example, including in Europe?
That was very disappointing, but of course that might change the geopolitical settlements around our country, especially when it comes to our neighboring countries, because our neighboring countries have already started working with the Taliban. And for many countries, that is their own national interest and security, and they might not consider human rights and women's rights into priority, although the women's rights and women's issue is a security issue. And it's not only an internal issue of Afghanistan. That might lead some other countries to recognize the Taliban, but the good part or the positive part is that there are some blocks in the world, some confrontation. If Russia recognizes the authority in Afghanistan, there might be some other countries that, because of Russia, do not want to recognize the Taliban.
But there are many authoritarian regimes that massively violate human rights in the world, which are recognized by other countries, from Russia to North Korea, for example. Why should Afghanistan be treated differently?
The scale is different, There might be some cases of violations, but in Afghanistan, it's not just about some cases or some violations here, there. It's a full system designed to erase women. You don't see even one country in this world that denies education to its girls. That is a very different situation of human rights abuses in Afghanistan. It's not like any other country. I don't think that you can find any country like Afghanistan. So that is the different. And women's rights issue is human rights issue. And human rights issue is an issue for everybody and every individual in this world. And we cannot give legitimacy to a government or to an authority that abuses human rights and women's rights on that severe scale. And besides that, the Taliban do not take power through election. They took power through force, and they were an armed group, and that might result in some consequences, like recognizing other armed group around the world if they can get the power through the force. So I believe that our situation is very unique.
In our last interview, shortly after the takeover of 2021, you called the Taliban terrorists right here on TV. They have now been in power in Afghanistan for 4 years. Are the Taliban still terrorists in your view?
They have been terrorists by definition, by the terrorist attacks they have conducted in Afghanistan, and still they are the host of international terrorists in Afghanistan. Afghanistan has become a hub for international terrorists, and that should be a signal for all the world, because Afghanistan's security is our region's security, and the region's security, of course, the world security. And that is at the core, they are a terrorist group.
In the film, your husband says he's very concerned for your safety because you criticize the regime so sharply and so publicly. Aren't you afraid?
No, I'm not.
But you get a lot of threats, even death threats.
No, I'm not afraid. I'm not scared. I'm coming from a war-zone country, and I have seen a lot in my life. But of course, I have some anxieties. I have my worries. I have my ups and downs. There are days that I'm very brave, and there are days that I'm like, what I'm doing. But in general, I'm not afraid. I'm not scared. I'm as determined as always.
There is a scene in the film where your husband says he does not believe he will ever see his and your homeland again. You are more optimistic. Why?
Because, I believe that we cannot afford to lose hope. We cannot afford to lose our motivation. And with hope and motivation, I continue. Without that, how I can continue? It's just a matter of time. I know that it's a long-term thing. We cannot go back to Afghanistan in a year or 2 years, maybe. But eventually, I will go back to Afghanistan, if not me, the next generation. Today, we should work for the next generation. It's not only about us. It's about the whole world, about security, about democracy and freedom that I honestly believe in.
Mrs. Ambassador, thank you so much for coming, and all the best for your work and for your country.
Thank you so much for having me again.